okay, hey Mac, I'd like for you to come to Beaumont and be our guest speaker. And he said, what for? Send me the information. And I told him, and he goes, Robert, I'm a little tied up right now. I'm dealing with a tropical storm and flooding, and these people need help. And he said, here's my cell number, text me the information, and call me in 3 weeks. Wow. But he didn't say no. So, about an hour later, I'm driving home, and he's on the radio doing a press conference with the governor of Texas. I'm like, that's incredible. Guys at work, he's talking to me, he's all over the place. So 3 weeks later, I called him. I said, hey Mac, this is Robert from Beaumont. Have you considered doing our event? And he said, well, Robert, I don't really speak a lot anymore, and the Astros are going to the playoffs, and we're looking at a possible World Series, and it's really not a good month. And I said, well, what if I move the event? And he goes, call me after Labor Day. But he didn't say no. So, what happened on Labor Day around that time? Does anybody remember? He went in the hospital. So my friends are burning up my phone. Hey, did you hear about Mac? He's in the hospital. Everybody's talking about it. So he gets out of the hospital. A few days later, I call him and I said, hey, how you doing? I said, we've been praying for you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I said, so, have you considered doing Beaumont? And this amazed me. He said, Robert, I like Beaumont. I go through there all the time. I'll do your project. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. He didn't say no. He said yes. That's kind of what we're asking you guys who are volunteers to do. Come out and say yes. That's what we do. We give back. And who better gives back to his community? So I asked Mac, I said, Mac, what can we do for you? And he said, Robert, get 25 people, I promise you he said this, 25 people from Beaumont to come shop at Gallery Furniture. I said, we can do that. So I'm like, how am I going to do that? My friend Dennis Monkla's like, simple, get gift certificates. We're like, great. So we got 25 gift certificates that some of y'all have. Who got a gift certificate? Raise your hand. Outstanding. So Mac is giving to us, and folks, I hope you support him. He's supporting us. And without further ado, please welcome Mattress Mack to the stage.
Thank you, Rob. I'm certainly honored to be here. And I'm very happy to announce I've met more damn Gallery Furniture customers here in Beaumont than any time in Houston. Now, Rob has called me about this speech at least 300 times. He came by yesterday. He was gracious enough to buy all these gift certificates that he's giving out as door prizes tonight. And as soon as you left, Rob, yesterday, I got sick as a dog. I guess some esophagitis or something where all this acid is coming up through my stomach. And so I went to the doctor today. He said, you need to take the day off. I said, to hell with that. I got to be in Beaumont with Rob. I said, if I don't make it, he'll kill me. So here I am, and I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here. I come to Beaumont a lot, but I'm proud to say this is one trip to Beaumont that won't cost me $1.5 million in Louisiana. My wife says I have a gambling problem. No, I just have a promotion problem. But I'm honored to be here, and I thought I would talk tonight about how to be successful through hard work, dedication, and a commitment to the community. However, before I launch into this semi-brilliant dissertation, let me give you some of my less than illustrious background so hopefully you know where I'm not headed to. You see, I was doing real well about 45 short years ago. I was 28 years old. I was living at home with my folks in Dallas, where I grew up at. And I had kind of a menial job. I was sacking groceries in a grocery store, making about $3 an hour. Convenience store, actually. And one day the boss walked in, and he said, son, I got news for you. He paused for a minute, and I thought to myself, what's the news? A raise, a promotion? What's he going to do for me? I said, sir, that's great. I said, what are you going to do for me? He said, boy, you're fired. I said, oh, damn. I went home that night to my folks' house. I went into a depression for several weeks. I felt sorry for myself. I felt like I was a victim of circumstances. And I felt like I was entitled to a nice home, nice car, nice job without having to work for it. So I went into depression there for about 6 weeks, and I woke up kind of early one Sunday morning several weeks later. I stumbled in the den where the television was. I turned the television on, and lo and behold, there he was, looking me right in the eye. His name was Oral Roberts. I really wasn't looking for any religion out of the television, but the preacher was preaching a message, and he said, you know, there's a lot of you out there in television land today that are throwing your lives away. He said, you're wallowing in the throes of self-pity. He said, you feel sorry for yourself. You feel like the world owes you a favor. He said, the world doesn't owe you a favor. You owe the world a favor. He said, get up, go to work, and make something out of your life. He said, get up, go to work, and make something out of your life. And that was a seminal event in my life. So I went out the next day, and I got a job at a small furniture store there in Dallas, and I found something I was good at. I was good at selling furniture. But I only had one problem. My parents' house where I was living was located about 40 miles from that furniture store, and I had no car. So I had to ride the bus 2 hours out there and 2 hours back every day. But I found something I was good at. I was good at retailing. And having this job put purpose and meaning in my life. And after about 18 months of being there, I began to dream of maybe having my own location. I wanted to start my own furniture store. I didn't want to open a furniture store up there in Dallas, compete with my boss, who taught me the business. So I asked him in late 1980 where would be a good place to start a furniture store somewhere in Texas other than Dallas. He said, kid, I understand Houston's a boom town, try Houston. So I called my beloved brother George, who was in the real estate business in Houston at that time. I asked him to get me a location. He called me back about 6 weeks later. He got me a location on the North Freeway in Houston, where we're still at. And I went out to dinner that night with my old girlfriend. Her name was Linda. She'd been with me through all my ups and downs, and she got in the car that night. I said, Linda, I got news for you. She said, what's that? I said, we're going to move to Houston. We're going to get in the furniture business. And she said, there ain't no way. And I said, Linda, you don't understand something. We're going to move to Houston, get in the furniture business. We just might be successful. She said, look, Mac, you don't understand something. I said, what's that? She said, all my friends live here in Dallas, went to school here, I've got a good job. I'm not moving to Houston, I'm not getting the furniture business with you. Well, I had to learn if you're going to be successful in business and life, above all, you have to be persistent, never give up. So I kept asking her that night and asking her. Finally, about 11 o'clock, I asked her about the 40 times. She got very frustrated with me. She slammed her hand there on the dashboard. She said, I'll tell you what, Mac. She said, I'll move to Houston, I'll get in the furniture business with you. But you're going to have to marry me first. Now I got to think of myself, this woman has put me on a difficult decision. Then I came up with what I considered to be an entrepreneurial brainstorm. I thought to myself, where else can I get an employee this cheap? I said, you got to So we moved to Houston in April 1981. And I've told this story 10,000 times, and I always told her we had $5,000. Well, she went with me 6 months ago to one of these speeches, and she reminded me we had $3,600, not $5,000. So we started with $3,600, never borrowed any money, and we're still at it 43 years later, thanks to the free enterprise system. We've been through a lot of fights. Been through a lot of battles, been through a lot of struggles. I wouldn't trade any of it for anything. Life is a battle and a blessing every day. Why have I been successful in my life? Because I've been lucky enough to learn from leaders who develop my spirit. My biggest leaders that developed my spirit were my wonderful parents. My father was the ultimate salesman. My father was the ultimate salesman. He was also the ultimate philanthropist. My father gave money away when he didn't have it to give. My father died dead broke. But you know what? He died happy. He gave away millions and millions and millions of dollars in his life. Never turned anybody down. I remember when my father started Bishop Lynch High School, which is a Catholic high school in Dallas. He founded that school in 1963. In the first graduating class, my father helped the kid that played quarterback get a scholarship. He was a year older than my brother, 2 years older than me, get a scholarship to Dartmouth University in Ivy League. And my father got him that college football scholarship. And so Jim went up there for the first semester, did real well, came back home to Dallas, and he couldn't get back to Dartmouth for the second semester. He was going to have to drop out of this wonderful Ivy League scholarship because his parents had no money. He couldn't get back up there. My father put him in the car and drove him all the way up there. That guy, Jim, turned out to be the vice chairman of the Royal Bank of Canada. And he credits my father with his success. My father was the ultimate salesman and ultimate benefactor. My mother taught me the value of a work ethic. My mother always said, son, if you want something done, go do it yourself. My mother was a housewife, but she worked from dawn to dusk, and she had an incredible work ethic. My father taught me how to never give up. My mother taught me how to work. Number 3, you may not know this, but I played football at the University of Texas many years ago. In 1969 and 1970, when the Longhorns won 30 straight games, 2 consecutive national championships. That's it. And I got to tell you, I was a great football player at the University of Texas. I only had 2 small problems. Number 1, I was too small. Number 2, I was too slow. The position I played was called the bench, but I was on the team. But those teams were great, and they had a little athletic trainer there at University of Texas back then. His name was Frank Medina. He was half American Indian, half Hispanic, 4 foot 10 inches tall, and he was tough as a pistol. And I got to tell you, I don't think a day in my life doesn't go by I don't think about those developmental words I got from Frank Medina. He was a little bitty guy, but he'd always said to those great big football players, son, ask, take, and give no quarter. Ask, take, and give no quarter. In other words, if you want something done, go do it yourself. And he'd always say to all those All-American players and those great players that are on that team, he would say, what are you saving it for, son? Is that all you got? He wanted all those players to leave it all in the field every single day. And I learned a lot from Frank. Also, another one of my mentors was a guy named W. Edwards Deming. He was the father of quality control in this country. After World War II and Japan was decimated by the atomic bombs, MacArthur sent him over there to help rebuild Japan's economy, and all those great companies like Toyota and Sony and Mitsubishi came from his work. Dr. Deming's favorite saying was, we all have a responsibility for the well-being of our community. He said we all have a responsibility for the well-being of our community, and certainly YMBL practices that every single day for the well-being of the community. Next group of people that formed my spirit were George Herbert Walker Bush and his wonderful wife, Barbara. George Herbert Walker Bush was the ultimate people person, as was his wife. I went to many, many functions with the Bushes, and I got to tell you, they treated the janitor or the waiter as well as they treated the $1 million donor. And every day of their life, they would get up, the first 2 hours, they would write thank you notes to people who did them a favor the day before. Estimated in their life, they wrote 40,000 personal thank you notes. I got about 10 of them, George Bush and Barbara. They treated everybody the same. They lived a life built around serving others. And I'll tell you another story. I met Donald Trump many years ago in 2015. I interviewed him at Woodlands High School at north of Houston because this friend of mine wanted me to interview him, and I knew nothing about Donald Trump. I read a couple of his books, interviewed him, and then I read a quote that was his favorite quote. There was an audience of about 1,000 people in the room, and I botched up the quote. And he looked at me and said, "Nobody's ever read a quote like of mine that poorly." I said, "Well, thank you, Donald." And so we went on with the interview. And then at the end, I got more applause than he did. He got all pissed off. I said, "Donald, this is my town, not yours." So whether you like his politics or not, I like the fact that he's genuine. What you see is what you get. It doesn't change. So about 8 months ago, I was fixing to go to sleep at 10 o'clock. The phone rang. It was Donald Trump. He said, "I need a couple of mattresses down here in Del Largo." I said, "Okay." I said, "What type of mattress do you need?" He said, "I need a mattress with a firm edge support." And that is a weird comment. Nobody says that. So I said, "Why do you need a mattress with a firm edge support?" He says, "Because I sit on the edge of the mattress all night and make telephone calls." So we sent these two guys down there with these mattresses to deliver them. And one of this guy named Sean, the Marine, he spent 10 years in the Marine Corps. He's buttoned up. He's very rigid in his demeanor. And the other guy we sent was a great guy that works for us that came to us during Hurricane Katrina. He's named Jerry. He's from New Orleans. He's about 6'5", huge personality, but he spent 6 years in Angola Penitentiary in Louisiana. But luckily he found a work ethic there, and now he's changed his life. So they go down to Mar-a-Lago to deliver these mattresses to Donald Trump. So they got there and they had to go through all the security and check the truck out and this and that. They set the two mattresses up in the ballroom, and the people said, "He's playing golf, he's probably not going to show up." So Jerry's kind of irreverent, and finally Donald Trump shows up. He walks up to Jerry and says, "Hello, I'm Donald Trump." Jerry says, "No shit." And this Marine guy's trying to find a closet to hide it, you know. And so the Marine explains the matches to him and this and that. Then Donald Trump turns to Jerry and says, "Have you boys had anything to eat?" Jerry says, "No, the damn Secret Service won't let us eat." Donald Trump says, "That's bullshit, y'all come with me." So him and Donald Trump walked a mile together to the restaurant, and Donald Trump treated this guy as good as anybody. And he treated the guy like a king. And they went in the restaurant and introduced him to his sons and all the waiters and all the people in there knew him, and they asked all these people questions. And the guy was just so genuine. And so Jerry and Sean went to get back in the truck and drive off. They were so shook up, they sat in that truck for 40 minutes to get the composure started up. Be genuine, be who you are, make no apologies about it. 3 examples of people I thought I'd talk about tonight that put service above self. 3 people who serve the community. One of the big problems, the other day after Donald Trump got elected, I was driving around the neighborhood and close to the store to get the guy some donuts. And I saw these trees still down in the street from the last hurricane. And I saw these homeless people everywhere. And you know what? No matter who got elected, we still got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. We got to serve others. I think one of the big problems in this country is people don't have a job. Too many people are relying on others to feed them. My philosophy in life since I found that job is find a job you love to do and you never have to work a day in your life. One of our guys just had a major medical incident. He was visiting his sister in Florida. He almost died. He was on death's door for 3 days. And after 3 weeks, he got better. He's still in a rough spot, but he came back by to visit me yesterday. He's back in Houston. And I said, Chris, I'll take care of your expenses, whatever you want to do. He said, sir, I want to go back to work. And I said, why do you want to go back to work? He said, sir, you taught me that work is life's greatest therapy. And it really is. Part of our job is to show people how to work and to find their niche in life so they can have joy every day. 3 examples of people whose work is their life. There's a lady I know in Houston. Her name is Yvonne Strait. 70 years ago, she gave birth to her little girl named Vicky. First 3 years of Vicky's life, Vicky was fine, a normal, smart, playful child. Then Vicky got meningitis, and she got brain damage. And little Vicky became a person who couldn't function, couldn't make any noises, couldn't do anything. But Yvonne's father was a physician, and Yvonne took little Vicky to all these physicians all across Texas. They all gave her the same diagnosis, no hope for Vicky. But Yvonne, you see, she wouldn't give up. So one day she made an appointment way up at Purdue University in Indiana with this world-famous guy that perhaps could help little Vicky, who was at that time a vegetable. But it was January in Houston, and it was snowing all the way from Houston all the way to Indiana. And Yvonne said to her friend when he came to pick her up, she said, we're not going to go. And her friend said, why not, Yvonne? She said, because I don't want to be disappointed again. And her friend says, no, we got to go. So they loaded little Vicky in the car and drove all the way to Indiana. And they got there, and this professor was giving a lecture about that subject. They brought in little Vicky, and he had a trampoline for some reason in the lecture hall. He put little Vicky on the trampoline, started pushing her up and down with the trampoline on one arm, then the other arm. And finally, against all odds, little Vicky made a noise, and she made another noise. Then Yvonne saw there was hope for Vicky. So with this guy's help and other people's help, Yvonne set up a school at a Baptist church on Westheimer Road in Houston. She rented 3 classrooms for children with severe learning disabilities called the Brookwood School. And she had lots of students in there, and then they expanded the school. Then she started Briarwood when Vicky and the other kids aged out of the schools at age 18, and Briarwood is a place in Fulshire, Texas for adults with severe learning disability. They have 100 full-time citizens there. They don't call them patients, they don't call them residents, they are citizens. And every citizen has a severe learning disability. But also every citizen at Brookwood has a full-time job, because Yvonne has learned that work is life's greatest therapy. And so I have an adopted child named Regina. We sent her to Briarwood, the school, and Regina was a very tough child. She's doing very well now, but many times they threatened to kick her out of Briarwood. So I asked Yvonne one day, was Regina the toughest child they ever had at Briarwood? She said, oh no, not by a long shot. I said, well, who was? She said, we have a lot of tough ones, but the roughest one we ever had here, most disruptive, was this little boy we had here during the beginning named Tracy. She said, Tracy was incorrigible, he was horrible, he disrupted every class, and many times I wanted to kick him out of school. She said one day he escaped out of the school, climbed up onto the roof of the Methodist church where we were renting the classrooms, climbed into a tree 40 feet above the ground, and he was up in the tree threatening to jump off and kill himself. And Yvonne was down at the bottom on the grass screaming at little Tracy to get off the tree. So finally she coerced little Tracy, came down off the tree and climbed down off the tree and broke one of the limbs, climbed to the bottom of the tree, went over there to where Yvonne was, took this tree limb and stuck it into Yvonne's leg. And the blood shooting out of her leg. And little Tracy's laying on the floor there, laying on the grass. He's laughing, he thinks it's funny. And Yvonne says, no matter what you do, I will never kick you out of the school. I'm going to straighten you out before you leave here. He stayed there for 2 or 3 years. It got better than he left. He aged out of the school. And Yvonne hadn't seen him since. So fast forward 20 years later, Yvonne's now the chairman of the school. She doesn't teach there anymore, but she's the chairman emeritus. And she's visiting her friends at school, and this good-looking guy comes running down the hallway saying, hey, Miss Straight, Miss Straight, Miss Straight, do you remember me? Do you remember me? She said, no, I don't remember you. Who are you? He said, oh, yeah, Miss Straight, you got to remember me. I was your favorite student. She said, no, who are you? He said, Miss Straight, it's me, Tracy. So Yvonne thought to herself, my goodness, I'm surprised you're not dead or in the penitentiary once. She said, Tracy, you look great. He said, thank you, Miss Straight. She said, Tracy, where do you live? He said, I live in Los Angeles. And Yvonne, being a good Texan, thinks that's not good, the land of fruits and nuts. She said, Tracy said, do you have a job? He said, oh yeah, Miss Straight, I got a good job. She said, what do you do? He said, I'm on television. He said, have you ever seen my show? She said, no, I don't watch much television. She said, what show are you on? He said, I'm on Cheers. She said, what do you do? I'm the bartender. His name's Woody Harrelson.
Oh, wow.
You think he came from a bad background? His father assassinated the federal judge in San Antonio? And Yvonne straightened him out because she believed. And so about a year ago, Yvonne was writing a book and wanted permission to put a paragraph in there about little Tracy. She called his business manager in Los Angeles. She said, I'll give him the message, but he probably won't call you back. He called her back 30 minutes later, kept her on the phone 2 hours. 2 hours. And you see, at Brookwood and Briarwood, they understand that work is life's greatest therapy. We got to get people to find that job that they love to do. And so during the pandemic at Briarwood, the state of Texas forbid the people at Briarwood from working because they might catch the virus. And the residents there, being not 100% mentally acute, were in an uproar. They didn't understand why they couldn't work. So one of the people who works there got the idea, let's let them at least go outside and paint on our windshields with watercolors and we'll wash it off. So they, let's try that. The first one went out there and painted on the windshield. You know what she painted? Let me work. Human beings were made to live, work, play, and die in groups. There's another woman that I know, her name is Temple Grandin. She is the world's expert on autism and animal husbandry. Little Temple is Little Temple was born, she was fully autistic, 100%. And she was afraid to do anything, but her mother was a teacher up in Boston, her father was a teacher, and they pushed on Little Temple to get out of her shell. They would make her come to the dinner parties they had at their house and make her do this, make her do that. She was terribly autistic. So when she got to junior high, her mother sent her to a boarding school. And they put Little Temple in charge of mucking out the horse stalls. And Little Temple fell in love with animals. And she went on to get a PhD from Colorado State University and has done more for animal husbandry than any person in human history, stretching back 800,000 years. And I was at Colorado State University where she teaches a year ago at her birthday party, and over her room dedicated to her, she has a big sign that says, "Working with horses saved my life." Temple is now 85 years old. She flies all over the world. She's single, never had a date in her life. She's autistic. Flies all over the world teaching people about animal husbandry, and about autism. Reads 18 hours a day. Dedicated her life to her work, and what an incredible life she has had. Written up in Time magazine, one of the 10 most influential people in the world. She leads a life built for others. And finally, my little daughter, her name is Elizabeth. When she was in 10th grade at Westfield High School in Houston, a public high school, I got home one night and her mother, my wife, Linda, said something terribly wrong with Elizabeth. I said, what is it? We'll get it fixed. She said she's got this weird disease where she washes her hands 400 or 500 times a day, and she does all these strange rituals and compulsions, and her mother said, I just don't know what we're going to do. So we took her to 20 different psychiatrists on the north side of Houston, and they all said the same thing. Never seen such a severe case of obsessive compulsive disorder, Howard Hughes disease, never seen a case that bad. She's totally helpless, put her in a mental institution. Well, you know, her mother and I, we're not buyers, we're sellers. And we weren't buying that bullshit. We ain't gonna throw that little girl away. So we searched all over the world. It helped that we had beans, that's for sure. We finally found a place called the Miniger Clinic in Topeka, Kansas, one cold, snowy February day. We kidnapped her, put her on an airplane, and flew her up there. We got up there at Miniger that cold, snowy February day, and now in her little mind, what those doctors had said in front of her, put her in a mental institution, was happening to her, and she was absolutely terrified to go in there in Miniger. And she begged all of us to take her back home. She said that she'd conquer the disease on her own. So I said, let's take her home, but her mother was a strong one and said, no, the only way we can save her life is putting her in here. We put her in that room, and as we left, she pushed her little face against the plate glass window, screaming at her mother, Mom, please don't leave me here. But we left her there. And she sat down and she cried. And this little girl who she's still friends with 25 years later, named Amy, came up, put her arm around her, said, it's okay, I cried when I got here too. And she stayed there for 6 weeks and got better. Then she came back to Houston. And she re-enrolled at Westfield High School, and with the help of the teachers and coaches, she did a little better. But then she had a reoccurrence of that disease. You see, mental illness is a cruel disease. No one knows who it may strike or why. Mental illness never goes away, it lasts forever. My child will always be walking on the edge of a cliff. I cannot keep her from falling. So she went back into Miniger, which at that time moved back to Houston, and then she got out. The proudest day of our life was seeing this kid walk across the stage at Westfield High School and graduate from high school. Then she tried college 3 or 4 times, failed miserably because of the disease. And finally, she found her way with a mentor at college, and she ended up graduating from college, and now she has a PhD from the University of Houston, and she's one of the premier OCD practitioners in the world. Because her mother was too stubborn to give up. We all have to volunteer in our own way. We have to volunteer to make the world a better place. One of my favorite sayings is, if not me, who? If not now, when? If not together, how? We all need to make our life a life of getting involved. I learned that from my parents. I'll never forget my father sponsored the Little League baseball teams. About to have something other than water in it. And, he sponsored all the Little League baseball teams. One of the parents came up and said, you only sponsor these teams because your boys play. He said, no, I sponsor because of all the teams. Because I want to help all these kids. That's the way it was. Get involved in an act of volunteerism. It makes you feel better, and it makes the world better. It makes you feel better, makes the world better. This world is about God, family, job, community. It's about helping young people. And those young people need role models. I don't know if you heard about the young girl named Jacqueline Aguirre, who was brutally murdered in North Houston by these Venezuelan immigrants. And I have this kid that works for me. His name's Bryson. He's 11 years old. He comes from a beyond horrible home life. He's been working for me since he was 8. Bryson lives a half mile from where Jocelyn did. Bryson's now afraid to go out of his apartment because that happened. But when Bryson comes up to Gallery Furniture, he has an extended family. Bryson is raised by his grandmother. His mother, God bless her, is a lost cause. But Bryson now has an extended family at Gallery Furniture. And he finds purpose and meaning in his little job there. And his job is not little. He does all the artificial intelligence for Untech Me. But it's amazing how it's helped this kid. And now I did a video with him. The customers come in and say, I want Bryson to wait on me. Okay. Do a lot of volunteerism and spread the word that God, family, job, community made this country. Young people need you and I to be role models for them. They look at what we do to see what they can believe. Bryson has lots of role models at Gallery Furniture. That's why he's going to be a great kid when he grows up. He has lots of positive role models. Make a difference in the community. Make the world a better place in which all of us can live, work, play, and worship. Whether you voted for Trump or voted for Kamala, it doesn't matter. Whoever got elected, there's lots of work to do in this country. Lots of work to do. Our job is to make the world a better place in which to live, work, play, and worship by our daily individual and collaborative actions. Did you know, here's a shocking statistic. In 1900, the average size of a U.S. household, 10.5 people. Average size of a U.S. household today, less than 2. 1 being the loneliest number. Used to be that people went to church. They had a community there. If the house burned down, they had a house raising or barn raising event. Everybody from the church came and worked and put it back up. We don't do that anymore. We need to. Figuratively or literally. Human beings were made to live, work, play, and die in groups. Work brings people purpose and meaning in life. That's what we need. We have lost a giant slice of family, community, work, and volunteerism. How to get it back? By doing it ourselves, encouraging young people to do it. By the Young Men's Business League of Beaumont, doing so many things over the many years here in Beaumont and setting a standard of excellence for the essence of living is giving. People who promote service, volunteerism, and making Beaumont and Southeast Texas a better place is what it's all about. A better place to live, work, play, and raise a family. Together, we can. Together, we can make the world a better place. And you know, whether we're Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. But one thing is certain. All of us at one of these days are going to meet the end of our earthly life. And at that time, when we meet our Creator, whoever we may believe him or her to be, our Creator is not going to ask us, how much money did you make? Our Creator is not going to ask us, how many material possessions did you collect? Our Creator is not going to ask us, how much fun did you have? Instead, our Creator will ask us, how much of a difference did you make? Thanks to everybody here in Beaumont who volunteers so much to make Beaumont and Southeast Texas a better place. Thank you.